Good evening, everybody. I think you may have had a sneak peek of me earlier as I popped in and then popped out again. Because I was fiddling and I shouldn't have been fiddling. But still, now I'm here. Back back permanently. Won't be dropping in and dropping back out again. As everybody will see, I'm on my own tonight. David's on holiday. I see spams in the chat. Oh, that's a good job, Paul. Wreck the thing you're going to be painting tonight before you even get working. So yeah, I'm going to be flying solo. But hopefully everything will go okay. Now then, let's give a shout out to who's in the chat. My voice, you'll have to forgive me, guys. My voice is still not right. I've been unwell for about 3 weeks and I'm still not 100%. So who have we got going on? We have Orinoco first in. Hello, sir. We've got Paul Howells of Pandyman Entertainment. We have got Spam, who is presumably with David over down up in Cumbria. We have Darren Harmon. Hello, Darren. Tonight, Darren is getting the Witchwood contrast paint out on his Wilgram Forest Folk minis. Paul Howells is working on some Northumbrian Tin Soldier, and Orinoco is cleaning up the TT Combat Tree Men to use as shamblers for Kings of War. Cool. Do you know what? That's awesome that you guys are just dropping in there, letting us know what you're hobbying on. If you're new to the show, that's the idea of tonight. Basically, we're going to be chatting and working and hobbying for a couple of hours. So get in on the act. Get your hobby project ready. Get in the chat and tell us what you're working on. So for those, good evening, David, through the medium of spam. If you're joining us for the first time, either later on YouTube or live, welcome to the show. Let me run through what we're going to be doing over the next couple of hours. First thing that we'll do is I'll show you what I'm going to be hobbying on while we chat, shoot the breeze, whatever. So we'll do that. Then I'll tell you about what I did on Monday night at Gaming Club. I won't have a huge amount to show you because I got so into it, I forgot to take a single bloody photograph of the game, at least. Because the other thing that we do have, hello Trevor, Upworlder. The thing that I do have though is photos of the paint competition. We had a bank holiday here in the UK over the weekend, so bank holiday Monday was Easter Monday here. So we had a low attendance at the club. There are only 2 entries, but I'm really pleased with mine. I won technically, but there was with 2 entries. It's like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, and then we've had one person put in an entry from our community here. Darren Harmon has sent in a fantastic miniature to my Discord account, so I'll share that with you as well. And then I've got a couple of things that I've seen on YouTube in the last couple of days that I thought, oh, they were cool. I'll share them with the guys. And then we'll shoot the breeze. We might go to the main topic a little earlier tonight because I'm on my own, and it's always a little tricky when you're running these sort of things. When you're sort of like solo running these things solo, because I've got to keep the narrative going. So we're leaning on you guys heavily in the chat to make sure we keep the conversation lively when we get to our main topic. Now, it's been observed in the OTT Discord that my thumbnail and title might be a little cryptic. What's this mirror match test he's on about? To be honest, it is a thing of my own sort of devising or description, but it is what you thought, which is that I'll be chatting a bit about mirror matches. And in wargaming, what we mean by a mirror match is what you'd probably expect, where you have 2 forces that are as near as damn it identical to each other, playing the game, whatever the game is, against each other. So probably the strongest analogy I can think of is chess. So whether you call chess a war game or not, each player gets exactly the same tools, laid out in exactly the same way, using exactly the same rules to play the game. And I have some thoughts on the idea of mirror matching. Yeah. Toros, the privilege of the internet is that I can make it up. But as I say, the stupid mirror match test aside, I think we have an interesting thing to discuss, shall we say. So, first things first, what are you going to be working on, Paul? Well then. Oh my god, it's all getting a bit Monty Python, isn't it? Right. I hate working on these things because they're so big. I can't fit them on my desk. Right. Okay. Oh, no, my camera. Hang on, my desktop camera. No, stop. Right. Okay. Let's go. Let's show the people. Show the people what's happening. Okay. Let's pull out a bit more. We've seen it. We've seen it before. We're still working on this goddamn Carnivale MDF terrain from TT Combat. As you can, well, if you're a regular, as you can see, since we last were live, I've done a fair bit of work on this one on offline. These circular windows have all been painted in and detailed in. There are a couple of areas where I've got to go and retouch. You might be able to see that I've gone over the sort of glass with the grey. And the problem with those sort of irregularities is they really do draw the eye. So I've got a couple of little areas that I need to touch up. But this is coming along swimmingly. To be honest, I would say that this is about 60 to 70% done. I've still got to do the white or the pale sand it is I'm using from Vallejo Model Colour on the ends here, and there is a little bit of detail work on the back. So as you can see, we've got more of this detail banding that runs around each individual window and archway, and we've got like a band that runs across the building. This skirt of limestone to add. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've said it before 100 times. These MDF buildings are cool, but Christ almighty, raw MDF, depending on how it's made, is very time consuming in terms of getting it table ready. But yeah, I'm glad you guys like the look of it. I'm pleased with how it's going. I'm pleased with the colour scheme. I wish it could be done a little bit quicker, but I think it's worth doing it. I think it's worth putting the time in because obviously, you know, you want your terrain to look as good as possible. And MDF, if MDF is rushed and done on the cheap, as I would say, or can it look ropey? So, yeah, that's what I'm going to be working on. Nice, mindless job. Loaded up a brush and painting some fucking sand, pale sand on stuff. Just put my phone out the way there. So, yeah. What have we got going on in the chat? At Toros, you may be getting Street Fighter flashbacks. Street Fighter flashbacks? Was that a thing in Street Fighter, mirror matches? I don't really know. I was never really a Street Fighter fan. But the only time I encountered the Street Fighter IP was in the collectible card game UFS. Hands up in chat if anybody knows what the fuck I'm going on about when I say UFS, the card game. It was a very good card game, to be fair. And I think it's still going. On its like 400th release or whatever the fuck it would be, after 20 odd years. And I imagine they've used pretty much every bloody IP under the sun at this point to create characters for it. But I had loads of the Soul Calibur, Who remembers that computer game? Soul Calibur characters for it, which was quite cool. What, me doing a great... No modding of Gaslands? No. No, I'm not modding for Gaslands. Yeah, do you know what? That's something that's more David's thing. He's the one with all the Gaslands terrain, not me. No, David's in chat. You loving life? I am, mate. Yeah, I won't go mad without you. Is that a hint at my article in WI? No, sorry, Paul. I don't think it is. But either. I'm not. Although actually, that raises a good point. I do need to probably do some Gaslands cars, but yeah, I know. I've just realised what you were talking about, Trevor. The problem is, mate, Thursday is terrain, not miniatures. So I can't do my Gaslands cars here. I will have to have a look at that though. Right. A swig of Le Cafe. Let's have a look at what's going on here. Let's get ourselves set up, and then we can start telling you about Monday night. Oh, yeah, let's refresh the wet palette. Do that first. Give that a chance to soak in. Soak in. Get in there. Right. Oh, God, I need a bigger desk. Right. We need photos. We need to go here. Just need to... I want to pull all of the photos that I've got into one place. So just bear with me a second, guys. Talk amongst yourselves. Da 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 da. Right. Add files. Now then. That's mine. That's V's. Where is Darren's? There's Darren's monstrosity. Da da da. I'm not sure what this is going to do for the layout, but you know what? Tough titty. Okay, that's not too bad. That's worked quite well. So, I've got the fire. I need to get the boy to bed, but I'm looking blue spam is too while she runs a bath. Oh, that's fine, mate. You're on holiday. You do that, mate. What is that an article on? Where is mine, sir? You were left in charge. So where is your article, Paul? On your website. He's fishing. So let's go to Pandyman Entertainment. So where am I looking here? Have you got a blog? Blog. I'm assuming it's your blog. Blog. Oh, Wargames. To be fair, mate, I don't get Wargames Illustrated. How the fuck would I read your article in Wargames Illustrated when I don't get Wargames Illustrated? So is it available online then, or was it a WI only? That explains why I don't know what WI is. Good for you for supporting. You know, I'm assuming there's a digital version of Wargames Illustrated. But yeah, magazines. Who remembers them? Oh, good man. Yes, if you do send me the PDF, I definitely will read it. Yeah, awesome. Okay. So what did we do Monday night? Well, on Monday night we played Dead Zone 3rd edition. So me and Ricky, we tried something new. Ricky had bought the starter for the Asterians, which, for people who don't know, are the sort of space elfy. Okay, would you say that it's worth doing then, Darren? Are you a subscriber to Wargames Illustrated? Would you rate it? Is it a good spend of your Dora? Just out of interest. Go on, give me the TLDR, mate. Yeah. yeah. It seemed unlikely, Spam, but yeah, I was going there with you as well. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, Dead Zone 3rd edition. So Ricky and I have played a few games. I don't think we played any this year, but we played a couple last year. And we wanted to mix it up a bit. Previously when we've played it, Ricky has played his Enforcers, and I have played my Marauders, who, for those who don't know, are Mantic's Space Orcs faction. And we wanted to mix it up a bit. So Ricky bought himself the Asterian starter, and the Asterians are sort of like space elves sort of thing. I don't think they are an elven race, but they've got the same aesthetic. So the models are very slender, very spindly, very fragile, but very powerful when they've got a lot of damage output, but not a lot of damage resistance. So what you call glass hammers, and they use a lot of high-tech robots and droid platforms. I suppose they've got elements of the Tau and elements of the Eldar for those of us in the 40k metaverse. They've got elements of both sort of blended together. While I'm not averse to a lot of the Mantic design aesthetics for their factions in Firefight, I don't really dig the Asterians. I don't necessarily like the look. They always remind me of some of the droids out of the the second Star Wars trilogy, what they call the prequel trilogy, where they've got everything's very thin and very tall standing and very slender. So yeah, but I mixed it up by, instead of bringing my Marauders, I just took a few of my models out of my Firefight army, my Forge Fathers, and basically just cobbled something together. My list was very improvised, very ad hoc. It wasn't at all, a well-designed list. I could have done with taking some anti-tank or something with some real damage output, because certainly the Asterian support platforms, weapon platforms, I think they're called in the game, which are essentially like heavy weapons on an anti-gravity platform. They were a bit of a tricky thing for me to fight. I basically had a couple of close combat options that could do it, but I did sort of paint myself into a bit of a corner. So yeah, as I say, I have to say this yet again. It was an absolutely bloody-tastic game. Ricky and I played, I think it's scenario 4. Essentially, there were 3 objectives. It was really quite clever. There's 2 objectives on my side, both worth 1 point, and there was a single objective on Ricky's side worth 2 points. So the map layout was asymmetric. And obviously you have victory points for removing enemy models and intel markers and loads of the stuff that's standard in Dead Zone. We played 150 points, so 16 points to win the game, and it ended up, I think it was 16-12 at the end. Ricky just got ahead of me and managed to beat me, but we made it all the way to turn 6, which I think is the full length of the last turn of the game before you actually say, okay, highest person wins if you haven't got 16 by now. So it was so finely balanced. And do you know what? Ricky had what was basically you buy the Asterian's Dead Zone starter. So he had a stock starter box as my Mantic sell it. I was literally grabbing crap out of a firefight army without really any thought, reason, or planning, just based on the models I had. And still the game was really finely balanced. Could have gone either way. A couple of dice rolls could have swung it. Again, if I'd have brought like a magma cannon or probably a heavy weapon that had some real armor punching power, I maybe could have got up the edge a bit quicker against his energy platforms. But it was such a good game. Absolutely fan-bloody-tastic game. And again, I came away from it thinking, why don't I play this game more? Mantic are such a good company. Their games are so damn good. All the ones I've played, almost without exception. I can't. David, shout, mate, if I'm getting this. Is there a Mantic game where we've played it and then done the old... do you know what? I suppose Dungeon Saga. Is the closest. Do you know... Shoegate. Fucking hell. You can't be cryptic, mate. I'm 50... Yeah, Dungeon Saga. It's like, yeah, whatever. But I agree, Darren. Do you know what I mean? It's they're both. Yeah, I mean, Darren, go back and watch. We did a whole live stream on it, mate. They're both fine. Original Dungeon Saga, new Dungeon Saga, they're both fine. The new one, for every step forward they've taken a step backwards in terms of, I think, game design. Have they really exploited its full potential? I don't think so. And do you know what's bonkers? I think if you play League of Infamy against side by side with Dungeon Saga, League of Infamy works so much better. And you just think, how can you have had this product in between these two editions of this game, not gone, do you know what? Some of the aspects to this work so much smoother. Why don't we just port this across? Do you know what I mean? I don't. I'll be honest. I'll be interested to hear how that happened, because I don't really understand. Yeah, exactly. It didn't, Darren. It didn't. Without getting into it again. Star Saga. I didn't actually, mate. No. Lists on the companion app for teams from Star Saga for Dead Zone. That sounds like a really interesting idea. I've never played Star Saga. I don't know if Star Saga works any better than Dungeon Saga. Are any of you guys experts on the old Star Saga stroke versus Dungeon Saga thing? I guess the problem we had was that Dungeon Saga was such a damp squib. We were like, I don't really see the point in Star Saga. It probably put us all off. But Dead Zone, different kettle of fish. Brilliant game. So much fun. So yeah, that was that. Now then, paint competition. So let's do it this way. So there were only 2 entries at club. This month the topic was upgrade. Now, before I get into this, I am right in thinking that Darren is the only person who sent me pictures, correct? Because I don't think I got anything from you, Paul, for this month, did I? But you did enter last month. Upgrade was a bit of a... So the topic the sort of topic or theme for the competition was upgrade, which I agree is probably a little bit weird. Ooh, okay. Star Saga was better than Imperial Assault. I know of Imperial Assault, and in fact I own a copy of the base game that I bought mega knockdown price from TK Maxx. But I've never played it in cold blood, so I don't really know how it works. But that's interesting to hear you say that, Orinoco. Do they still do Star Saga? Is it still a current product line? Because I might look at it. Oh, damn! Do you know what, David? I haven't, mate. That's the one thing I have not done. I've not put your just. I'll be right back. Hello. We're back. I think because I took my Bluetooth headset out of range, for some reason it shut down. Because of course it would. I just went out of range. So yay. I hope the sound is that working? You're back. Thank you. Right. Let me try that again. So, V at club entered. Now I think the trick with the upgrade here, what V was trying to do, he has entered his battle droid unit previously, and I think the idea was he was upgrading the battle droid unit with these, whatever the roly fold up robot things are called. Man who doesn't know any Star Wars lore, after Return of the Jedi, it just sort of falls off a cliff. So yeah, I think that's what he was going here with the upgrade, and he got 2 votes, because there are only 5 people at club. I got 3 votes. Now, you guys, this is where you guys deserve huge amounts of credit. So, you bullied me. Crispin, you can sort of bow out of this, because you were very much... Crispin was the sane man in the room who said, no, don't be a psycho, phone it in. Okay? But no, you guys said that what I should do was take a metal abyssal dwarf lord that had already been converted out the wazoo with a fucking juggernaut head and loads of other things, and then basically cut it in half and glue it to a converted corn flesh hound from like the early 80s, where everything's made out of metal, and it'd be a complete nightmare. And I was like, oh my god. And it took me nearly 2 days off work, but I did it. Okay? That was Darren's entry. We'll come back to Darren's entry. So this is the finished piece. I apologise for the paint job. The painting was very much phoned in. So basically, to describe what we've got here for you guys, is if you go to the Mantic website and look up the Abyssal Dwarf Lord, I think it is. So he's a fixed pose, very much like this old school posed cyberpunk. He's got like metal and pistons and gears. So you've got that is your base figure. So from the head, where the brass trimmings are behind the head, right down to that apron that's hanging in the front, that is basically the miniature you've got there. The arms have been hacked off and converted so that because he's got an enlarged, he's got a large hands mutation. So I've hacked his hands about and put on GW orc arms, orc hands, so that they're like a bit oversized. They're about double the size of his regular hands should be. The other conversion is I've just basically shaved because it's got quite a cool helmet back. The Mantic model, it's got like a nice. It's quite spacey to be fair. It's like a ridge that runs up the side of his head, and his head is set just in front of it. Iron jaws. Yeah, thanks, David. So I basically just took my hobby saw, cut the whole front off right down to that ridge, and then we've glued and pinned a metal juggernaut head that's from an original 1980s metal juggernaut from Korn. So we've got that glued on. Then, so that was what the model was. So then we've hacked off the legs, and using a shit ton of green stuff, we've welded it to. This is one of these parts are from the old metal flesh hounds from the 80s. Now, the reason I managed to get these was basically I bought the parts cheap on eBay. So none of these, like these two halves don't match. For those of you who are old enough to remember, the flesh hounds of old came in basically 4 pieces. You had a tail, a head, and 2 bodies, but left and right. And then they came in variants A, B, and C, I think. So there was an A set, a B set, and a C set. What I bought was random bits. So I had I think I had a B and a C body, and an A head, and a C tail. So nothing really fitted together very well. So basically, green stuff, persistence, and just absolutely just basically forcing square pegs into round holes. We managed to get the body to look sort of okay. And then with the fleshhound head, I literally just, because the old fleshhound didn't have the frill going all the way round like the modern plastics do. It was literally just that fan at the top. So I've literally just cut that off, given it a slight curvature with some metal files, and then use some green stuff to fill the gap. Well, actually, some Vallejo plastic putty just to blend it to the head. And so then we've got the juggernaut head with the fleshhound frill on the top. I'm really pleased with it. Like Darren says, it's a good old-fashioned metal confusion. From the Slaves to Darkness table, mate, because I'm doing Khorne and V is doing Slaanesh in our little mini campaign. So all of the material we're using is out of the first book. If we don't get sick of it, and if we enjoy the process enough, we will definitely be going back and doing the other side of the coin. I'm a massive Tzeentch guy anyway, so I will be, let's do a Tzeentch warband, and I'm sure V will be, okay, that's fine, I'll do Nurgle, and then we'll just do the whole process through the Lost and the Damned as well. But yeah, so that was my paint, and I won 3 votes to 2 against V, so it was close, but I'm pleased with the work. As I say, the painting is literally just flat colours, bit of Agrax, and fucking, there you go, base ready mix, you're done. I spent so long on the converting and pissing about, I really didn't have the patience for the painting. But yeah, so as I say, thank you for you guys, because do you know what? To be fair, without your push, I wouldn't have attempted it. I would have bottled it. I would have backed out of it. I would have phoned something in. But now, not only have I got this conversion done, but I've actually got a ton of work done so that I can get ready to play our next step in our little mini campaign, which is what we want to do is take our warbands as they are and play a game of 3rd edition Warhammer with them. Which is probably a little bit mental, but we've got about 30 models each in our warbands. And they're getting to the size now where they're big enough that we don't necessarily need to use a modded rule set like Mordheim. We can literally just take 30 models and play Warhammer 3rd edition. It works at that sort of scale. So yeah, looking forward to that. So from our community, we had Darren send me this. Now let me go to my Discord, because Darren did tell me what this is. As you can see from the little miniature you've got there for scale, this is bloody huge. Yeah, I agree, Darren. And I've got there is a really ropey old PDF floating around on the internet, which has got watermarked pages. I think it's one that's been lost in a flood and somebody salvaged it or something. But I've got that, and it's usable just a fucking bout. But no, I agree with you. They should just put out a version of it, because if you look for them on eBay, good quality ones are hundreds of pounds. They're fucking insanely expensive, and it was a great little game. It was such a fantastic little game. Yes, so let's tell everybody what Darren did. Then Darren doesn't need to. So this is a mud gullet from Reaper Minis. He's using it as a Forbidden Psalm Lake monster. And it's bigger than the model he did have to proxy in for it. So in that way, it's an upgrade. Do you know what, mate? I noticed you were sort of apologising earlier in the chat. The one thing that we say with our painting competition, yeah, it looks more like 100, to be fair, mate. I don't know how big it is. Well, if that's a 25, it must be, what's it, 150 round, or is it an oval? Is it a 150 round, something like that? Yeah, when you were saying about you were apologising about your upgrade is tenuous. We always say at the gaming club, don't fucking worry about it. If you want whatever you put in, the most important thing with our painting competition at our club is to take part. Taking part is the point. Getting something done is the point. Getting the theme, if you can get the theme bang on the money, that's a cherry on top. That's the icing on the cake, and well done to you. But do you know what? 105 mil, fuck me, that's huge. Darren also says in his comment that you say the colours aren't as garish in real life, mate. I'm assuming you mean like the tentacles, the blue and the red, because they're a bit insane. Oh, that is a good point. What is the next comp? So, the next competition, just let me go to our club Discord channel, because I think V actually said club activities, painting competition. The next theme is humour. Okay, so next month's painting competition. So oh, I was just about to say, you know, right, okay, David's are in here. Now, I didn't photograph them, and I kept saying to myself, before I go live tonight, I need to photograph David's entries, because basically, when we're not at club, we don't tend to enter our models. We don't sort of like send them with a friend, because that's not really the point. The point is, if you're there, you get to put the models in. But let me just set up, because David went a bit bonkers. So he couldn't win at club, but I definitely want to show you guys. So I'm going to have to do the best I can. What I will do is I will put photos up. I will take photos of them, and because we've obviously got the slideshow that runs at the beginning of our live stream, and we need to update that slideshow to put in some of our more recently painted models. So I will make sure that these go in there. But I am going to just bring across my desktop camera to see if I can't give you a teaser or just show you what he's done. Let me see if I can get this set up. So if I go to this, that, okay. So now then, David bought a crap ton. You've seen him painting these anyway. If you've been a regular, you've seen David painting these on stream. But basically what we've got are some models from, I think it's a company called Tangent Miniatures. And David's painted up. They're all, well, they're not all. They're basically science fiction, characterful little sci-fi models that David's painted up for Space Station Zero to use as a warband for that. And there is a bit of a space dwarf theme. Focus. There we go. There is a bit of a space dwarfy theme, but they're not all dwarves. But they are really nice. He's done an excellent job on these. And what's nice, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but David is really becoming comfortable in not hard moding absolutely everything. I mean, I don't know if you would describe these as a basic bitch paint job, David, but I think you should be proud of them, man, because they are bloody excellent work. For what, I don't know, how many hours have you got in these? About 6 to 8 hours? Do you reckon? More? Anyway, let's while you guys are chatting, I'll just finish showing these off. And he got the whole damn warband done. Now, let's while he's here and he can't answer back, apart from just to abusers in the chat, we're all gonna say to David, faces and bases, mate. You can barely see the face on this little guy. So we need that picking out, please. We need work. That needs work. But yeah. To be fair, that is about the only one. And I don't know if you guys agree, but his face doesn't read very well. I mean, he's got like a very pronounced brow ridge, and he's got like a breather on. But the whole layout of his face looks a bit confusing to my eye. Or am I just old and blind? Yeah, 7 hours. I mean, 7 hours. I think these are fucking cool for 7 hours. Really good job. Really good job. So yeah, sorry I didn't have any high quality picks, but I will get some done. But there you go. That's David's entry for the painting competition this month. Yeah, and so humour for next month. So crack out your Monty Python miniatures. All of your weird. Hey, Paul, you get to do something that's basically Santa, like Santa with a chainsaw, or Santa in a wife beater, drinking a bottle of Stella. Now is your chance. Now is your chance, mate. Yeah. So let's get this out of the way. Let's get this out the way. Right. Time's getting on. I haven't even, look at that, faffing about with those miniatures. I haven't even bloody put any paint on this model yet. Let's go to the web browser. Web browser. 3, 2, 1. You're back in the room. So, as you guys probably are aware, good, I'm glad to hear it. Do you know what, Darren? Somebody in one of the local clubs to us is just sharing some Ark World stuff they're painting. It's not a game I've seen much about, but the miniatures look very cool. I'll have to have a look at Ark World in some detail. Do you play the game? Is it any good? Question mark. Right, as you guys are probably aware, it's been April Fool's Day recently, and I don't know what you guys think, but I personally have had a bit of a belly full of April Fool's videos from content creators. I'm gonna sound like a complete miserable old bastard here, but please, if you are a content creator and are watching this, don't do it. Don't do a fucking April Fool's video, please. Okay, so you've never played the game. Paul hasn't either, but he knows the designer. So, okay, I shall do my own research then. That's fine. Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, please stop. Fucking stop. Because they fall into two broad categories: videos that are fucking lame and quite obviously are practical joke, sort of like April Fools, or videos that appear at first that they could be real and then turn out to be April Fools, and you just think, I've wasted half an hour of my life and that wasn't funny and I won't get it back. Stop. So yeah, just fucking yeah, just stop. Stir or puh. Having said that, there was one that just raised the tiniest little, curl of the lip that wasn't a sneer. And I thought, oh, well done, Peachy. So Peachy did an April Fool's video, because obviously everybody does an April fucking Fool's video. Peachy's was actually I'm assuming Duncan's taking it in good spirit, but basically he took the piss out of Duncan Rhodes' two thin coats, and he's basically done a video that he's releasing a set of paints called Peachy's One Thick Coat, and all of the different colours in the 13 bottle start set were like shades of peach, and all had sort of like peach related stupid names. As I say, it was just funny enough for it to raise a smile. So I thought I'll give him I'll give him it. Much as I fucking despise these video formats. Yeah, go on then. Yeah, we'll let you have it. So, yeah, if you and to be fair, unlike some of these fucking ridiculous videos that are like 30 minutes long, I think his is 5 minutes. Maybe not even that, 3.5 minutes or something. It's not gonna basically. It's not bad. Give it a watch. Give him a thumbs up. He deserves it. I'll give him a thumbs up here. Look, there you go. Look. Another one that I haven't mentioned in a while, and I keep coming back to his videos. What I tell you, in terms of a content creator who makes fantastic evergreen content, that's going to be more of a reference source that you're probably going to access for years during your hobby career. Vince Venturella is pretty much up there. He doesn't do current videos. He doesn't do Vogue videos. He does videos that will they basically build a knowledge base around hobby and mostly painting. He's very painting focused. For those of you who know, Vince Venturella is a very high level painter, competition painter. And he does product reviews, paint reviews, how-tos. He's got this series of videos on how to use colours. And this one that I pulled up, I think is one of the most recent ones. And it's basically about painting white. The whole, 30-minute video? No, whole 18-minute video is just about white and how to paint white and just techniques you can use. And it's just brilliant. You know, if Vince is not somebody, definitely Darren, if he's not on your radar, I mean, Vince I used to do a lot of his hobby cheating videos, which is this series. Definitely, if they're not on your radar, they should be, because if you want to know something or want a tip on something, go to Vince first. I would always say, because if he hasn't done a video on it, then you can try and look somewhere else. But if Vince has solved it, just go with what Vince says, because he's very smart. He's a very smart guy. One of the nicest things about this video is that one of the things he mentioned in this video, and is something that I've always sort of like tried to get across to new painters that have asked for my advice, or people who are just coming into the painting, is this idea that when you're highlighting or shading a colour, you don't just use a lighter or darker tone of the colour that you're shading or highlighting. You can use other colours to highlight and shade colours. When you're painting, it's a bit like, because I did think, actually, although everybody's currently saying, oh, the War Paint Fanatic range, that's fantastic. You've got these 6 colour swatches where you've got all these different tones of blue from the palest to the darkest, and they've all got the same sort of like colour spectra. So they're all like either pale, they're all either blue greens or true blues. Do you know what I mean? And they're just either paler or darker of the same sort of thing. Yeah, that's okay, and that it is a way that you can go, but you can also shade blue with purple and then highlight it up with a blue green or a different colour. Do you know what I mean? And if you don't believe me, go and watch some of Vince's videos about how to use colour when you're painting. And because actually it's all about tricking the human eye, and the human eye is quite a stupid organ. You can achieve incredible things by just being creative and not necessarily a great example, Darren. And obviously he brings it into this video because, again, he said one of the things you should never do when painting white is use white. You know, you should be using pastel tones of different colours rather than white. And very, very, you should never need to use white except when you're doing like a specular highlight on a lens or a gem. Yeah, okay, good shout, Darren. I've heard of Dr. Faust, he's been mentioned quite a bit. I'd not watched a lot of the content, but I'll take your word for it. As I say, I don't consume a lot of painting content now. I'm quite a lazy painter. I know how I like to paint, and I like to paint for low effort, maximum return. I don't want to be putting 120 hours into a display piece model. I want to be getting the results as quickly as I can with the minimum effort. So I am highly selective about the painting content I watch. But Vince and his videos, definitely. Hobby cheating, give them a look. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he did, mate. Yeah, he did. Um, and again, you if you don't believe us, go and watch it. It's a great video. I mean, it's like I mentioned it recently. I put a comment on Peachy did a video. I think it was Peachy when he did those foundation videos on painting Space Marines, and he put in there about he was almost being he was getting in there and sort of saying to get ahead of the critics, because in the videos he does the base coats, slather it in wash, touch up, and you're done. So he's doing very much table ready basic bitch painting. And I thought that somebody of Peachy's caliber, missed an opportunity to really defend this idea of using one shade tone to wash an entire model. Because again, you can use different tones to do different shading on different colours, but actually it's surprising how realistic a model looks. If you're going for a realistic look, it's surprising how grounded and in its environment a model looks when you shade it with a single tone, because effectively that's what happens when something gets weathered by its environment. All of the colours on it, they get the same dirt and rain and mud. The mud that's on your boots is the same as the mud that's on your shoes, on your cape, on your trousers. Do you know what I mean? And it really does give models a grounded look. But it's those sort of things that come out of Vince's videos, very much so. Have we got one more? We got one more. I pulled this out of the Discord server. And is that the same idea, Darren, that basically you just slather them in this sort of neutral mid-tone colour, like a brown or a beige wash, and then because I mean it's a bit of a meme with the on tabletop community. There's one of our members who does the old brain matter beige dry brush on everything. Shout him out in the comments if you know who that is, guys. But obviously that started this whole brain matter beige thing, but it's the same principle, It doesn't matter, After you could hazy boy. I mean, you could be dressed in like a court jester's outfit. If you're covered in dust and muck, the dust and muck is going to be the same on the red and the yellow it doesn't matter what the underlying colour is. The weathering and the dirt is the same. And that's why using these single neutral tone dry brushes and washes is so effective in miniature painting. It's why it works so well. Anyway, this, as I say, was lifted out of the OTT Discord. This looks like a pretty cool little board game. It's by the guys who do the Call of Cthulhu RPG, I believe. Chaosium, isn't it? Yes, it is, Paul. So essentially, what it is a Call of Cthulhu themed board game. Yeah, you don't say, Paul. Where basically you've got Cthulhu investigators on board a train, which is the Orient Express. Now, I'm not sure about when this is set. Looking at some of the artwork, it's got like a late 1800s feel to it. So I don't, because obviously classically, Cthulhu is set in the early 20th century, 1915, 1925, that sort of decade, around American Great Depression, etc. This looks, from an artistic point of view, to be slightly earlier. I don't know if you guys know that. I did start watching the how to play video, but it's quite a beast, so I didn't get through all of it. It does look fantastic. It's a great looking board game. The only thing that might concern me, the setup does look a bit of a bastard. I mean, getting this game ready to play, it's not going to be just throw it on the table and let's get cracking. But it's got some miniatures, but it doesn't look like it's mad for it. You got lots of really cool little artwork. Lots of nice little asset features, like there's these little golden cubes that go into slots on your character sheet. All of these special ability cards lift out and can be changed or upgraded. So it looks like quite an involved little game. Suitable for single player, according to this. Again, I haven't seen how the single player mode works, but it's for players 1 to 4. 90 to 120 minutes, so we can roughly double that because board games lie. So you are looking at quite a big play time, probably 3 to 4 hours. But, you know, that's not bad. And it's, what, $98? Basically $100. Which doesn't, it looks like, and it's been discounted quite heavily. I think if I scroll down here, where is it? Yeah, it's down from $170 to $98. But whether that's because they've absolutely smashed their goal, I don't know. Because if you look here, they've done like $474,000 out of 40. Or pounds, that is. That's English, British pounds. They've absolutely annihilated their fucking goal for this game. I'll be brutally honest, I would back this if I didn't already have a ton of Arkham Horror Living card game. I think for me, I don't think there's any play experience this game can give me that I can't get from what I already own. But if you're not somebody who does have the entire collection of the Arkham Horror Living card game and doesn't really like the idea of card games, I would have a look at this, because this does look like a very good price for a very good game. And as I say, it looks like the production quality on it looks amazing, and it is Chaosium. They are quite a good, you know, obviously they're a firm with a history and quite a reputation. So is it, mate? I don't know. So God tier is actually what it says on the tin, is it? It'd be the first fucking board game in history that is then. So that's all I have for you in the news. That's your lot. Which is good because it's just gone 9 o'clock, and that means that we need to start talking about our main topic. It's main topic o'clock, isn't it? So, oh, that's it. Get the fucking paint on the roof, Paul. Do that. So, mirror matches. Now, this is one that David and I have had on our topics list for a little while. Can you remember why we added this one to the list, mate? Was it a game that we played, or because the only mirror match that I think I've had, even relatively recently, was we played Necrons versus Necrons in one-page rules. Well, they're not called the Undying Dynasties or whatever the fuck they're called in one-page rules. Me and Luke, so we played a mirror match of that. And I can't remember. I can't remember why it came up, but still. So what do we mean? Let's start at the beginning, guys. What do we mean by a mirror match? As I said at the beginning, when we say a mirror match, what we're saying is when you play the game, you are essentially playing with both sides having the same thing. So that could be they're using the same faction, the same models, you know, they're literally using the same. So in the example of what I did on club night, playing Dead Zone 3rd edition, let's say for argument's sake, Ricky and I both owned the yeah uh say Ricky and I both went out and bought the Asterian starter because it was discounted heavily because nobody was buying it. So we both essentially bought the same starter box and built near identical lists and then played a game against each other with that. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the show, you have got examples of games, board games, war games, whatever the fuck you want to call them, games certainly, where mirror matching is like built in. Chess, the most obvious example. You know, you apart from the pieces being black and white, that's the only fucking difference. They behave in the same way, they do the same things, you get the same fucking number of pieces each, and they're all of the same type. Now, the extreme opposite of that is like a game like 40k where there are like 14 factions and well over 100 different model choices within each individual faction. So it's perfectly possible for two players to turn up and have play a set of models or play a lists against each other that are not even remotely similar. And I think mirror matches are really, really, really important for two main reasons. I think the first thing that a mirror match will tell you, and this is where I came up with my idea of the mirror match test. If you can play a mirror match, yeah, if you can play a mirror match, let's go to this main view. We don't need that bloody board game anymore. If you can play a mirror match in your game and it's fun and the game is good, and by good I mean actually enjoyable as a process, that tells you something very important. Because one of the things that will happen when players have the same resources at their disposal, then one of two things will happen. If the game essentially denies the players or is very weak in terms of actually giving the player agency or control over the game outcome, a mirror match will reveal that very quickly. Because with a mirror match, if the decisions you make as a player don't really matter that much, and let's say, for example, that the actual stats of the models and how they interact with the core rules of the game and how they interact with your randomization element, whether that's dice, cards, whatever the fuck, tokens out of a bag, however you want to do it. If you play a mirror match and this gaming experience falls flat, it might be showing you that your core mechanics and your RNG, your randomization system, are not leaving any room for player agency, and they are determining the outcome of your games. And mirror matches are a great way to immediately spot that you have a problem. Yeah. Do you know what? And this is when you start to actually think about this concept of, are mirror matches sort of like are they a diagnostic tool? When you think of let's just pick a couple of example games to actually cite that in my opinion, shall we say, they sail close to the mirror match wind. Frostgrave is one that I immediately thought of. Each player can only pick from a limited, in the base rulebook, you've got I think you've got about 10 or 11 different troop types to pick for your warband. Your wizard and your apprentice are essentially the same except for the handful of spells that they pick. Admittedly, there are about 50 or 60 spells, so there's a lot of choice there. But They do it. The game sails very close to the mirror match thing. You know, you both got 10. You both only get 10 models. You will have a wizard, an apprentice, and 8 other scrubs. You're restricted on specialist count, so you can only have. Still, you're going to end up with a lot of thugs and thieves. You're going to end up with a lot of guys that are very similar to each other. You already, Joseph is compressing the game choices in a way that you're going to get a lot of similarity with what you put on the table with what your opponent puts on the table. Admittedly, you can use your own model ranges and paint them and get them to look how you like and theme it how you like. But in terms of the game, you're playing with very similar tools. And yet, as a gaming experience, it works. It works brilliantly. It is a bit cinematic in that the dice are very random and the dice do heavily influence the outcome. But I wouldn't say, because Frostgrave, again, genius design, because Frostgrave does have the ability for you to play semi-cooperatively with your opponent. If you agree with your opponent not to beat the shit out of each other and actually just try and get the chests and get off and not get beaten to death by the wandering monsters, you don't have to play Frostgrave, you know, fucking tooth and claw, attacking your opponent full force in the face. It's not that sort of game. That you can play it how you want effectively. And again, that's interesting, Darren. Do you find that you find the D20 frustrating? Do you? Okay, that's interesting. The 2D10 does flatten it, and it might be worth looking at it. I'd not thought about that. I don't mind it. We've played Frostgrave again recently. Because Frostgrave is non-adversarial, I don't mind it. It's just fun. You know what I mean? It means you don't want to take the game too seriously, but I'm not sure I want to take Frostgrave that seriously. Another example that I think really applies is bolt action. Now, I've said it before on stream, is I've not played Rangers, mate. So maybe there's some. Is that because it's always you on the receiving end of the bad stuff? Because I think Rangers solo. So what was I saying? Yeah, bolt action. Because when you look at it, like a Japanese infantryman is the same as a German infantryman, is the same as a British infantryman. Like a Fallschirmjäger, which is a veteran German paratrooper, is essentially the same as a British commando para. They got the same profile. The difference is in their army rule. That's it. All the base stats are the same. Basically, the equipment is the same. You know, they've all either got an SMG or an assault rifle or a bolt action rifle. It's like you've got a lot of what you get given to play with is very simple, very similar to what your opponent gets to work with. And okay, right, yeah. No, I can understand why that would piss you off then. Particularly if you say because again with Frostgrave, obviously, even when stuff dies, it doesn't die, does it? I mean, I think you've got virtually 1 in 20 chance of your actual apprentice and wizard dying, and I think your your scrub guys have got a 1 in 4 chance of not coming back for the next game. I can't remember. So yeah, but again, it doesn't matter. It works. You know, it doesn't. Bolt action doesn't suffer from the fact that you know, all of the models are very similar. When I play Bolt Action, I don't feel like, I didn't really have any way to influence that. It's like he had veterans and they were just better than me. And do you know what I mean? The whole game system works cohesively. The other thing that I think that mirror matches are important for is highlighting how usable your core game system is. Because when the problem with games that stray further and further and further from the mirror match scenario is that they become virtually impossible to balance and the complexity goes through the roof. The best examples are AOS and 40k. Okay, there are the rules burden in that. I'm sorry, I'm going to upset you, internet, but fucking the rules burden in Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40,000 is too fucking high. Okay, there are too many special rules, edge cases, exceptions, special things attached to every fucking model, right? There's too many. And they're all different, you know. Good example. God, Darren, you're fucking good, man. Darren's brilliant. He's on fire. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Right. Another example of a game here. I like Malifaux. And I'll be honest, one of the issues that I think Malifaux does have as a game system is that if you mirror match, you could easily run into some very odd situations that could make the game a bit unplayable or a bit daft. Okay, so one of the things that makes me say that is Malifaux is quite an odd little abstract game in that you only have a handful of models, say 6 or 8, but each of those models has a lot of special rules, and those special rules are often quite obtuse or weird in-game effects. So to give you an example, I run a master for the Bayou called Wong, who is a little gremlin wizard who casts spells. So he casts these fireball spells. When he casts his spells at people in his group, he gives them glowy tokens, and as these models build up glowy tokens, they then can do other in-game effects off their cards. So each model interacts with other models in some quite bizarre and very abstract ways. It's much more reminiscent of the way that sometimes computer game assets work in relation to each other, where the interactions can be quite complex, counterintuitive, and a bit odd, but because the computer's keeping track of everything, it sort of works. Malifaux isn't afraid to go into that territory, and you will find when you're playing Malifaux, a lot of the time you'll be, okay, I put this condition on that model, I put that token on that model, I place these tokens on every model within 3 inches, whatever. This happens all the time in Malifaux. And to be fair, if every warband is staying in its lane, it's fine. It all works, okay? But just imagine for a second that I was playing Wong and you were playing Wong, and you were trying to stick glowy tokens on everything to get an effect, and I'm trying to stick glowy tokens on everything to get an effect, and because of the way the games worked, glowy tokens are glowy tokens, and we can all use each other's glowy tokens, and it would all start to get a little bit fucking silly a little bit quick. Now, a lot of games it would go very wrong. A lot of games get around this issue by either tacitly or explicitly saying you can't play X against Y. So, for example, I am not an expert, but each master in Malifaux is considered to be a unique named individual. There may be rules that you can't play named Master X against named Master X. They may have already said, no, we've got to stop that because otherwise it will break the game and make it unplayable. That's a bit of a pain if you and your mate both collect the same thing, or if you take your models down to the gaming club and lo and behold you find you've both bought the same fucking master who's top of the meta at the moment, and that serves you right. Again, other games, they might not do it quite so formally, so it's like, well, I mean, let's say Bolt of Action. I imagine if you go to a Bolt Action tournament, they'll quite happily let you fight early war Germans against late war Germans, and like nobody will care because it's a tournament, so do what you like, mate. But again, a large group of the gamers who play those sort of historical games will be like, yeah, no, I'm sorry, that just smashes my immersion way too much to be fighting Germans versus Germans, particularly at different times in the war. No, I'm not up for that. So again, different games might have different ways of solving it, but it still comes back to this thing that a mirror match can tell you a lot, and I think it's an important thing. I think it's an important thing to do early on in a game's design, is to restrict yourself to a single sort of set of models or whatever, and try that interaction. If that mirror match doesn't work, I think before you throw yourself wholeheartedly or deeper into the pit of that game's design and play, ask yourself, why is this not working? What about this isn't working? Because as I say, I think it's really an important thing. The other thing that, like David said about mirror matches, is that because you're taking a lot of variables out, chess is the best example, right? Chess, again, we keep coming back to it, but because it's such a pure game, the problem with chess, if you can say there's a problem with chess, the problem with chess is, because everything is so balanced, apart from the advantage that white has for going first, see last week's stream, which according to many grandmasters is about 1 in 20 advantage white, about 5%. Apart from the advantage for going first as white, what basically the only thing that determines the outcome of a chess game is the skill of the player. You've got no randomization. You've got identical forces and you've got a fully symmetrical board. The interactions are all entirely symmetrical. So the player skill is the only thing. Now, obviously, that's the extreme case. But as David said, if you take a mirror match in a war game, what you will do, even if it's got, I mean, yes, okay, you can say it's still got randomization in it, Paul. We still chuck a handful of dice every 5 minutes. Okay, so it's not entirely deterministic, but you will definitely focus in on player skill. As long as your game system allows agency, you will then, by putting a mirror match situation in place reinforced that. So now your decisions matter more. Yes, that is very fair, Darren. You do have to give some thought to table layout. Many war games, the table is described as the third player. I think Infinity is the one where everybody always says the third player in the game is the table. But you're right, that's got to be taken into account. But again, just by having a mirror match scenario, you are definitely going to make those player decisions more important than if they had completely different factions, because there's so many different factors at play then to, disrupt the flow of the game, to change the outcome of the game. Once you take that away, the decisions that the players took during the game will just by default gain that much more emphasis and weight in the outcome. Trevor, that sounds like the kind of historical research question that Google could answer. I imagine it was just an arbitrary thing that was decided whenever chess was designed. Brownie points. Hear me out. Well, if you say something, David. Oh, mate, you fucking bastard. He's just literally stolen my thunder. What a bastard. Because I was just about to say, what about Horus Heresy? Because I was thinking about Horus Heresy when I was thinking about running this as a topic. So David has just made an interesting point there, right? So, because I thought about this, I thought the problem with 40k is, and one of the reasons I don't like 40k is that because there are so many options, and because the game, see, the other consequence of this, like we said before, once you have 10,000 moving parts in your game, forget balance. It's out the fucking window. You just can't do it. Keeping all of those things running together, all those parts running in perfect synchronicity is like madness. You won't do it. So that one of the reasons I don't like 40k is I can put down an army on the table and my opponent will just pan my face in because they've just got the more powerful faction in the meta. My models are old. My list doesn't have enough variety or anti-tank to defeat what they brought with them. Because again, here's another advantage. Here's another thing about mirror matching, right? One of the problems that you come across with war games a lot is mismatching assets. Okay, and then you'll be like, Paul, what do you mean by that? So what I mean is, when you've got a situation where here's an example. You've got 2 infantry units, 3 infantry units, whatever, super elite, and they're fighting a tiger tank, okay, in bolt action. Okay, a tiger tank is, I don't know, fucking 300 odd points. I don't know what they are. That's probably 3 infantry sections. But it isn't a match. It isn't a competition, because if you don't spend some of those points on anti-tank grenades or a fucking bazooka or 2 or something like that, that you aren't touching that tiger tank. You're just not killing it. It's really those assets, they don't mix well. And one of the things, the further you stray from the mirror match idea, so the more exotic you make your troop selections, the more crazy and varied you make all of the models in your game, the more you run the risk that you're going to get things that just don't work well against each other. You know, like as I say, I've got the example there of bolt action. Another example that you come across is like the knights in 40k. Okay, now I think they have sort of like swung back a bit. Knights aren't overpowered in 40k at the minute. In fact, the opposite. I think because they're such difficult models to remove unless you've got the correct tools to remove them, and because they're so overpowered in relation to ordinary run-of-the-mill troops and light vehicles, that they're so overcosted that they're virtually impossible to win with now. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think because Horus Heresy again, okay, Horus Heresy as a, I don't know if this is still true, but historically, Horus Heresy attracted a very different section of the 40k gaming audience. It was people who were more. It was a baby of the older guard. I don't know if this is still true, but it was the more mature, the more experienced, the players who'd been in 40k the longest that were drawn towards Horus Heresy. And maybe that's because of all of the reasons we've just described. It's got the closest parallels to historicals in that a lot of the troops that fight each other are very similar. Their equipment is very similar. You know, it's probably 40k's closest to a historical game, and people I know use that almost as a joke, didn't they? They described it as historical 40k because obviously the Horus Heresy happened 10,000 years ago in the story of 40k, so it was historical, ha ha ha. But actually, there are more parallels than that because Horus Heresy has this mirror match sort of like dimension to it. Now, Games Workshop being Games Workshop, yeah, that is a good shout. Games Workshop being Games Workshop, they have to keep stretching the envelope. Now, it's been a long time since I've looked into Horus Heresy, but I imagine at this point we've got so many specialists for each of the legions that actually the whole mirror match thing is breaking down. Oh, there you go. Google has the answer. Sounds a bit unlikely, but there you go. I would have thought it probably has more to do. I think David might be closer that white is traditionally a colour of the good and the righteous, and black is colour of the evil and the bad. And I suspect that it might be that like the good always goes first. That's what I would suspect. But if Google says it's to do with that and lucky superstition, then that's fine. Whatever Google says. So yeah, I'm sure that Horus Heresy is not. The more that they keep grinding the wheel on Horus Heresy, I'm sure it's going to get further and further and further from its mirror match core. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But I tell you what, as I say, preparing for this stream, it did make me think I probably should try Horus Heresy because maybe, just maybe, it does solve some of the issues I've got with 40k in general. And maybe it would be a Games Workshop game I could enjoy. The only thing is, like David said, I'm a bit meh on Space Marines, and if you don't love Space Marines, the game doesn't really have a lot for you. You know, I don't love that Space Marine aesthetic. The C word. I don't even know where he's going with that. Oh, that might be to do with black and white. Blood Bowl mirrors. It's an interesting one. I mean, I think the example of a Blood Bowl mirror pretty much covers everything that we've already discussed. I don't know if you guys agree. You know, if you have mirrored teams in Blood Bowl, all you're going to do is you're going to make the RNG more impactful, and you're going to make the player decisions more impactful. If one, let's say for example, you're playing two very similar Skaven teams, they're both running a Rat Ogre, so they're both running the big boy strategy. Whichever player either uses their big boy the best or gets luckiest on their in-game activity rolls, whether they be passes, catches, blocks on the ball carrier, those sort of things are going to become more in fact impactful. Yeah, that is. But again, this is why I said this is why mirror matches are so useful. You know, because again, if you run your mirror match and each player comes away thinking, I didn't really have any control over what was happening there. That was the dice that decided that game. Do you know what I mean? I think if you can run a mirror match and the players still felt that the game was engaging, they had an input into whether they won or lost, that you're on to something. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a great little tool for telling you if you're on to something. If you do the mirror match situation and everybody's like, that's a bit fucking, that didn't really work, did it? Then again, you need to go back to the drawing board. I don't know if I think that's it. I mean, as I say, I just wanted to. It's always difficult with these ones where I'm on my own, because obviously monologuing is a lot harder than it is when I've got David here to just bounce ideas off and stuff. But it's been on our list for a while, and the more I thought about it, as I say, I think generally we do quite well in that there aren't many. It's like I say, I thought of Malifaux, and Malifaux is a game I think that really would, at its core, it's got so many little foibles that if you've got models that share the same identical rules and are trying to achieve the same identical objectives, you really could tie yourself into a knot very quickly with the way the core system's constructed. And there aren't that many of them, which I think is a good thing. Most games, I think, work in quite a healthy way when you've got a mirror match situation. I mean, yeah, I mean, again, that's another very, very good point in that that's another great consideration for a mirror match. Now, to be fair, Darren, I can't make comment hugely as I've only ever played one game of Moonstone. Do you think Moonstone would work in a mirror match scenario, or would it be, or are there reasons why it might break and disappear up its own arse? But yeah, having a situation where there is only one starter, so a lot of players are going to have the same model pool, that might be a good. I mean, it makes you wonder. You know, surely the writing's on the wall. If you're designing your launch for your game and you're in that situation where you only have one starter set, one 2-player starter, and so 80% of your players are going to have the same fucking models. You've got to think about this, haven't you? Like, okay, so what happens if they play each other? How's that going to work? Yeah. But David said about teaching. That's another great use of a mirror match scenario. Teaching somebody else to play a game. I mean, thinking about Blood Bowl, right? If you both just run 2 basic stock human teams, 1 thrower, 2 catchers, a couple of blitzers, the rest of everything just linemen, and each player has exactly the fucking same. Do you know what I mean? It's so much easier to communicate to a new player the principles of play when you've both got the same tools and you're not trying to do different things. I mean, imagine that versus a situation where you've maybe got wood elves, which are extremely fast, agile, but fragile as fuck, and your opponent's brought some dwarves, slow, massive resilience, want to play the running game. Trying to communicate the basics of the game are suddenly going to have a whole new level of complexity because you can't exactly show your opponent what to do. Okay, so again, just so if it's a strong system where the mirror match thing works because the core game is more than... Because you see, this is the other thing, right? There is a really delicate balance between having your game lean on the rules on the models and having your game lean on its core rule system and its, I guess what you would call its gameplay loop. Is that the phrase that they use with game design and board games? What's the gameplay loop? If you lead on the individual rules on all of the models too much, your game starts to lose its identity, and once you get too much of that, the whole thing becomes chaos. I guess this is what fucks balance up. This is why GW ends up in trouble with its balance issues, isn't it? Because effectively, it doesn't really matter what the core rules are for. At some point, you've got so many other special rules on the table interacting with each other. It doesn't really matter that you roll 2d6 for a charge. It doesn't matter how cover works because you've got so many other interactions going on. It's like, well, I've got +1 to hit and I ignore cover, so it doesn't matter. You know, you're sort of like, you basically just, the more you pile this crap on, the less and less identity your core rules system has, and the less it impacts the actual game as it plays out. And at that point, it then just becomes individual pieces interacting with each other in a vacuum almost. Um, and like you say, because Moonstone, the models do matter, but what matters more is your ability as a player to get in your opponent's head, win that little mini game with the cards in the combat. Because for those who don't know, Moonstone has a combat mechanic where you basically lay down cards from a blind hand and do a simultaneous reveal. So, and because obviously you're choosing something, you're trying to get inside your opponent's head and think, okay, they know that this move works really well for me, but then they might pick a move that works strongly against it, or they might know that I'm going to think that, and then they might think, well, he knows what I'm going to think, and backwards and forwards it goes, and you disappear into this bluffing game. David says balancing and mirrors are kind of intrinsically linked because a lot of the unbalanced shenanigans games, mirror matches, doesn't become as impactful if I can get my point across properly. A lot of the unbalanced shenanigans games, mirror matches, doesn't become as impactful if I can get my point across properly. Yeah, so that's sort of what I think. I'm not sure what he's trying to say, mate. I think you're trying to say basically what I was saying, which is that, you know, one of the advantages with a mirror match is that if everybody else has got the same, if you've got the same shit on both sides, the core game is what you have to, what you're doing is you're pushing the buttons of the core game. You're using your influence as a player. Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. Again, I don't know. The thing is, though, 40k is so convoluted and huge now. I guess it's virtually impossible to get a mirror match situation going in 40k. Is it? I mean, I've played a Necron mirror match, but it was actually one-page rules. We didn't try it in 40k, but that's because I don't like 40k enough to try it. Maybe we should. I don't know. Maybe you're right. I don't know, mate, to be honest. 40k comes down to knowing your rules well. If you know your army and you know your rules, you just have a better game because you've got more control over what's going on. That choosing, and again, did you bring the right tools for the job? Because there's such a huge variety in models, their costings and their sort of balance. It's like when I've lost with my Necrons, I bring a Necron list and then lose badly to Custodes because I didn't bring enough anti-tank. And Custodes, they might be infantry models, but they're basically in the game, they're tanks because you have to use anti-tank weapons to remove them because they've got ridiculous armor. They can withstand damage for days. So unless you've got weapons that are designed to blow apart tanks, they won't blow apart Custodes models. You literally lose by what you brought with you. You brought a load of anti-infantry stuff. Well, that sucks to be you. You won't be winning today. Good luck killing a single model of mine when you need like 3,000 rolls to get enough wounds on something to kill it, just based on rolling average dice. I don't think so. But I say again, that's because we've strayed too far. We've strayed too far from this idea of a mirror match. We've gone, again, it's a fucking trap, isn't it? It's like, yeah, I hope I mentioned that last week. That Goober Town video is fucking amazing. It's a really good video. Not over salty, but and you know what? I could totally respect the guy. The nicest thing about that video, he says, is that he actually shelved it for best part of a year because he didn't want to put it out because it seemed so negative. But then he thought, no, fuck it. This is actually what I think. And I used to love 40k, and now I don't anymore. And I want to tell everybody why I don't love it anymore. And it was awesome video. Really good video, and it came from a great place. It's absolutely fucking tragic, to be fair, the way that 40k has gone and the way Games Workshop have what they've done with their gaming assets, their gaming I guess assets is the word, because the IPs are a different thing. The IP for 40k is doing fine. There's the lore's great, the stories behind it are awesome, the factions are beautiful, the models are really clever. The games just blow goats. They're just fucking far too convoluted for their own good. They're far too literally, unless they are a part-time fucking job. Do you know what I mean? It's like you know, if you do them, there's no room to do anything else in your life, which is fine. You know, totally respect those people who, you know, get on their fucking road bikes and do 200 miles every week. You know, if that's your obsession, that's your obsession. But I can't live, eat and breathe and shit and die one game. I want a bit of variety in my life. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a good. Again, I think David, you're hitting upon what we talked about. But we've just mentioned when you DZC, some of the core conceits or concepts in the game matter a lot. That like having what is AA anti-air, having a fire to control your opponent's drop ships and influence their ability to move around the board. Those sort of things are common to all forces and critical to success. So it doesn't. And again, the other thing, because here's let me get ahead of the internet. The internet is going to say, Paul, you're a fucking hypocrite. You've just said that one of the issues with 40k is like if you don't bring anti-tank and your opponent you can't win if your opponent brings heavy armor, blah blah blah. Yes, absolutely fine, but the problem with 40k is the it would work better in 40k if the army building was so restrictive. I'll be honest, I'm going to say this now, right? You could balance 40k, and here's a hot take. Give me what you guys can say in the chat now, whether I'm a twat or whether I'm onto something. We could balance 40k overnight. Hyperbole. Here he goes. We could balance 40k overnight if we fix list building. Give items in armies a distinctive role or flavour and restrict the things that you can bring in those roles or flavour in the army. Okay. So, for example, fucking custodes whose infantry behave like tanks. Well, no, stop. Because if that means custodes infantry are a heavy choice or an armoured choice, how does their list look? Do you know what I mean? Because the problem with 40k is they're constantly trying to fix the problem by changing the model rules. So it's like, or even worse, the faction rules. Oh, fucking Eldar, they seem a bit overpowered. Yeah, it's because they can just keep picking the fucking dice that they want to use as sixes endlessly. So you've taken their randomization. It's even worse than fucking rerolls. They can literally pick the goddamn dice. You know, they keep pissing about with stuff like that. How about they just sort of say it's like, I mean, again, that they would have to do other things. Yeah, I've taught. Yeah, you're right. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. You need to do so much to 40k. You need to, for a start, before we even go to list building, what we need to do is take a look at the codexes and say, what are these things supposed to fucking do? And then we need to ask ourselves, it's like factions like the Knights. We need to wake up, smell the coffee and say, how are we going to balance somebody who wants to bring 80 orc models in ramshackle trucks and a bloke who wants to bring a fucking knight? How does this work as a game? Does it even work as a fucking game? Because I don't think it does. Yeah, again, Well, to be fair, the other thing with the Decurion was I think it increased your fucking reanimation to like a 3+ with a reroll or something bollocks. So it's like you had like a 66% chance of every model just cancelling every hit. And it was basically, the reason Decurion was broken is because it was basically Custodes. You know, oh, what's your armor save? 2 up with a 4 up invulnerable. Okay, so you got a 50-50 chance of cancelling every single hit. Okay, great, awesome. Yeah, yeah, Darren, that's it, mate. The fix for 40k is out there, and it is called "Don't fucking play it." Find a game system that isn't completely shit, and play that instead. Yeah. Again, to be honest, I get annoyed at myself when I'm like, oh, you could fix 40k by... I tell you what, instead of fixing a game that somebody's handed you that's in a shit state and broken, why don't you just go and play a game that somebody's finally crafted and done a good job of producing? How about giving that person the benefit of the doubt and go and play their fantastic product instead of chucking money at a bunch of fucking half-wits that have taken what they had that was great, driven the fucking thing into the ground and then left it there to die? How about that? Sorry, too salty for everyone. So yeah, that's it. We've set the world's. We've set to work. We've come to time. Sorry if that was a little bit waffly, guys. A little bit of a long way round that one. But as I say, I think that mirror matches are a useful thing in lots of games. And do you know what? Just try one. Pick your favourite game. Try a mirror match. See if it works. See if it's still enjoyable. It might tell you something about the game. Might tell you something about the way you play the game. And certainly, I think if you're somebody who's like a budding game designer, or, you know, somebody with a penchant for the creative, think about mirror matches in terms of testing your game and testing your rules, you know, because that's the other thing. Mirror matches are a great way to get the refinements of your core engine right. It's like that argument, isn't it? If you've got a complex system, I mean, I'm a scientist by trade, pharmacist, so a large part of my education was creating scientific experiments. And what do you do with the scientific experiments? Fix all the variables that you can, and then just change one and monitor the outcome, because then you're getting an outcome that's related to the variable that you're modifying. With a complex system, it's very difficult. But in a way, a mirror match is a great way to do that as a diagnostic tool with a core game system. Fix as much of it as you can, and then watch the interactions play out. Is it stale? Maybe there's not enough in the core system. Maybe you're relying too much on what the models are doing. If it feels a bit flat, a bit lifeless. Is it too random? Right. Well, I haven't managed to get much painting done. I hope you guys have managed to get more done than me. We've managed to keep going till 10 o'clock. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, painting competition for next month is Humour. Humour for everybody in the Americas. There is a U in there. So hopefully we'll see some entries from you guys. Titrate. Oh, titration's one way of doing it. Although titration is probably not what you're thinking of, because you know there's lots of context for titration, Darren. Yeah, okay, thank you. So let's do the roundup at the end. If you can only do one thing, guys, please click like. If you can do any of the other stuff that's underneath the like button, then that's way awesome. Thank you very much for everybody who was here in the chat. I don't know how many of you are still here, but I hope you enjoyed the stream, such as it was. And we'll hopefully see you next week with a restored normal service. As I said earlier, don't forget the painting competition. If you want to submit entries, either you can message me on the On Tabletop Discord if you are part of the On Tabletop community, or you can send a pic to the email address down below, and we will be looking at those. The way it works is it's the first Monday in each month. So for this, for next month, it will be the 6th of May. Monday the 6th of May. That we will be judging them at the club. Obviously, you've got a few days grace if you're submitting from the community, because the live stream won't be until the 9th following that. So if you're a little bit late, still get that photo in by the 9th. We can put it up for everybody to see. Night to everybody, and we'll see you next week.